Alrighty, so we are going to be jumping into a quick and dirty basics on proc animations using the animation editor. This is not the old proc animations, this is for new style proc animations. I have Buddy Barker and Ivan sitting in on this tutorial watching, and they'll be asking questions as we go. Nothing, Ivan. You just sit there and look pretty. Bro, watch your language, bro. We're on YouTube, bro. Alright. Huh? I'm streaming, Ivan. Gee. Guys, you're making me look silly in front of all my viewers. All like, two of them, they're gonna probably pop in, if even. Eh, Respectfully, no thank you. No thank you. No thank you. Alright. Ivan, hush. Ah, hush. Ivan, we're busy. Ivan, shut up. All right. This is immediately off the rails because of our Bosnian friend here. All right. So step one is you definitely, obviously, you need to have your model already rigged with bones that you're planning on animating. If you haven't done that yet, go find a video on how to rig. That's not what we're going to be touching on today. So once you've got your model ready to be animated, go ahead and create yourself an animations folder in your asset. In here, we're going to, on this main screen of Infusion, we're going to click on the animation editor. This will open up on the wrong monitor, so you have to drag it over. Well, then can't do it. Sucks to suck, I guess. All right, just getting some stuff off screen lined up so that I can see what I'm doing. All right, so you're going to hit this white paper. You're going to give it a workspace name. So this is for my MI24A, and specifically what I'm animating is the gear, so I'm going to call it MI24A underscore gear. Workspace directory, this is going to link to that folder that you created in your asset folder earlier, so that ANMS folder. Doesn't have to be named that, but you do you. And then you're going to tell it what prefab you're wanting to animate, which is my MI24A. So we're going to hit OK on that. So make sure you got a good name, file directory to your animations folder, and the model that you're animating, and hit create. And if we tab back over here, you see it created all these folders. In the future, if you need to make changes to your animation, it is your .aw, your .animation workspace is the one that you'll open to make changes to. These other ones, just leave them alone. All right, now that we're in here, we're going to come over to controls down in the bottom left. We're going to need a variable. That is going to be a float. This float is going to pull from a signal source. For me, my gear are going to fold up once I hit a certain speed, so I'm going to name this airspeed. The name that you choose for this isn't really important. I name it whatever signal I am pulling from, just so I know what's going on. In this variable, your max variable is going to be at least the same value as the maximum movement of one of your items. I'll call back to that in a minute. For now, for testing, I'm just going to name it 100 or set it to 100. I don't think I'm going to need 100 degrees of movement on anything here, so that's going to be overkill. I'll end up lowering that. You're going to then make a bone mask. Now, this is going to be for my landing gear, so I'm going to name it gear. This is basically a pool of bones that you're telling this animation project, these are the bones you'll be affecting. So I have what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different parts and 7 different bones I'm animating. So I'm going to add 7 entries. Now, the workspace does this weird thing where if I add these and I try to assign a bone right now, it does nothing. So hit the blue save, hit the yellow folder, and just reload your project, and boom, you can magically assign bones. Infusion! Now, you're going to go through and tell it specifically all of the bones that this project is going to be touching. So just bear with me while I assign all my bones. No, you can have more. You don't have them set up properly. So let me open you up real quick. Share your screen for a second. Those of you watching later on for this tutorial, mind the gap. We're getting sidetracked for a second. You're good. Share your screen real quick. It's a super simple thing. All right, go to the original one. Oh, you why aren't you just using the effects manager? At this top search bar, type in effects. You know what? This we'll circle back to this because I'm thinking of the way helicopters do it. Um, I'll circle back. Ground vehicles are a little different. Adding effects emitters and shit to helicopters is so much easier. Yeah, yeah. I'm sure it's I'm sure it's basically the same process, just in a different location for ground vehicles. It's just been a while since I've touched a car, so you have to let me refresh my memory later. Okay. Yeah. No, dude, Discord murders my PC. All right. So once you've got all your bones set up, you are basically done here. Um, Now we can move into this fun little grid down here, and we're gonna need four things. First one we're gonna need is Q. Q is a yellow item, so it's gonna be here under blend, and you're gonna drop the Q right here. You're gonna need a variable update, which is a gray. So here, variable update, and you're gonna need procedural. Procedural is another gray, but it is right here under procedural. Weird they gave it the same color, but two different locations. All right, bind pose is the last one you need. It's a green. It's going to be the first option under the greens. So you're going to go and attach these. So when you drag this tail, you'll need to kind of hover over the top. If you get too low, it just won't attach. It's weird. So hover over the top, and just daisy chain these together. So Q, this is very important. You need to rename your Q, and this is going to be something that you need to remember to come back to later once we're messing with the prefab. So I'm going to name this MI24A underscore gear, basically the same name I used for the project. Um, and other than the name, we don't need to do anything to it. So now we're going to move on to variable update. Variable update, we're going to add a variable update. This is going to be what you did over here in controls. So if you have like landing gear that move and I don't know, a radar dish that spins, those obviously aren't going to be driven by the same signal. So you'll have more than one variable. I'm not going to get into doing more than one thing right now. We're just going to get one thing moving, but just kind of letting y'all know that. So for each different variable, you'll need another one of these. But we're doing one thing. So all we have is airspeed. We're going to put that there. And you're going to check all three of these boxes. So update on initialization, update on main path, and update on blend out. Max difference per second. This is how fast whatever is moving is moving. I like to start at 50 units per second, and I'll either raise that or lower that once we get into the testing, once we get things moving, and we need to see if it's way too slow or way too fast. We'll come back to that. That is it for variable update. Now we're going to go down to procedural. This is where all of your magic is going to happen. This is the actual place where you're going to be doing your animations. So for every bone you have, you're going to need to add one of these. And again, like earlier, this isn't going to let you do anything right away. Oh, sometimes it does. So never mind. I put my foot in my mouth. If it doesn't let you assign a bone, save and reload your project. That's just Infusion being Infusion. So this is where we will go and select the bones we want to move. So I'm going to work on these front hatches first. So that's going to be gear door front left. And then gear door front right. Now, I don't exactly know which rotation they need to, what axis they need to rotate on. So I'm going to leave it on X for now. And we're going to set this to rotate. Rotate is a pretty important one right here. This is the type of movement you're going to have. So if you want it to spin, something like a door swinging shut, rotate. You want it to slide inwards or outwards or forwards and backwards, that's a translate. So these are the two that you're going to be using mainly. These other ones, they have uses. Their uses are probably a little more niche than what we're going to need for this. So translate and rotate. For the doors on the front gear and the rear doors, those are all going to be rotates. These rear gear, these are going to be translates, so they're going to slide up into the fuselage. So we're going to have two different types. But for now, these front doors, these are going to be rotates. So we're going to have something that we put down in amount. It's going to be this little thing here. So rad, open parentheses. The negative is depending on if you need a negative or positive value. So if your door rotates the wrong way, you'll either need to add or remove this negative symbol right here. Clamp, open parentheses, the name of the variable you're using. So airspeed, comma, 0, comma, this is the amount that you're rotating. So these doors look like they probably need about, I would say, 85 degrees of rotation. And we're going to put that there. One of these is going to need to be negative, and one of them's going to need to be positive. I already know that. I don't know which one's which right now. So I'm going to leave them both as negative rotations, and we'll fix that as we go. So those are basically it. So I'm going to save. We're going to go down to bind pose real quick. And we're going to tell it that we're using that gear bone mask. That's all you need to do for that. So right now we can save and do a quick test on this. So we can double click Q to start the testing simulation, and you can slide your airspeed here, which it looks like we're not getting anything. So let's see if we can figure that out. Yeah, so no, that's not going to be the issue. Let me reference my other stuff real quick. local rotate. Okay. So just to rule it out, I'm going to refresh my project. We can change things on the fly here in case things are not working. So I'm going to remove these just in case they're causing problems. And they're not. Make sure everything's spelled right. Yeah. Alright, so what's going on here? Ah, this needs to be set to 1. Expression right here. Make sure you put a 1 in expression. So obviously we're rotating on the wrong axis, but we have movement. Look at that. So we're going to set this to max value. We're going to come over here to procedural, and we're going to change our rotations to the z-axis. And if we come back over to controls, we can see left door is good, right door needs to be positive. So go back to properties, front right, we're going to take this negative away from this, and boom. So now we're rotating in the right direction. But my estimate of 85 degrees was obviously incorrect. So let's give it what looks to be, let's say about 120. No, not even. Okay. Let's go 150. And of course, we only set our maximum variable to 100, so that's why these aren't going any further. So let's stop our simulation, bump this up to 200, restart the sim, and we can kind of play with this to see how far we want to close them. Obviously, these are not closing the best because this model just really wasn't made to be animated. So these were never modeled in a way that they needed to look good. But for educational purposes, we're good. But we can see here at about 23 and a half is where we're kind of getting that sweet spot. So we're going to come in here and we're going to do 123. Call that good. So 123. Boom. So now when we're at 0 kilometers an hour, the gear doors will open. And when we hit at or above 123, they will close. So there we go. Step 1 is done. Now we're going to go in and add a few more bones. So I want my front gear to rotate now. So we're going to do this. To save me some work, I'm going to copy and paste. And then, oh, look, there we go. I can't assign a bone. So we'll reload the project. Infusion. Alrighty, Ivan. So assign gear front. Now this is only going to need to rotate 90 degrees. I already know that. If I am wrong, I will be surprised. So let's start that. Sim. Oh, look at that. Wrong axis. Wrong axis again. There we go, right axis. See, and we don't even need to do 90, really. It looks like we could get away with about 80. No, 85. No. Okay. So let's see about 86. No. 87. Yep, that gets us up out of the way. So for a little test, we start to slow down, go for a landing. Boom, doors open, gear swings out. Cool, cool. See, and this is where we can come into our variable update and see we can lower that down to 50. And now the whole animation will slow down to 50 units a second. So you can play with that variable update to get your animations looking the way you want them. So cool, cool. Let's go back to the properties for procedural. And we can work on our rear gear now. So kind of already got a handle on how to do rotations. So let's do a translation. Let's get this rear gear going up and down. So we're gonna go gear, rear, left. This is going to be a translation. We're still gonna use this little command line here. And what are we doing? So it is in BFE right now, no clue where it's going. So controls, let's see what this does. So I'm going to come in variable updates, and I'm going to make this a little faster while I'm doing development. Okay, so we're not moving along the right axis. That's the problem. So I think Y is the direction we need to go. No, it's not. All right, proper axis, wrong value. So we're going to come down here to the rad clamp and take away that negative value. So we're in the ballpark now. So let's say translation. Oh, that's right. Let's max this out. So we're getting there. We're getting there. Probably need a trans of about 80 or 90. Yep, so that kind of puts us up out of the way without the struts sticking out the other side. So let's get a full preview of this. Looking good. So now we can come down to the properties for procedural. Let's give this a copy. We'll add another one. Paste it. I already tell you it's not going to let me change the bone because I pasted. So we'll refresh. Gear rear right. Okay. I don't think I'll need to make it negative. We'll see. Nope, I didn't. Would you look at that? We've got animations. Oh, yeah. Looking good, looking good. So now we only have two more to do, and that's our rear doors. And then we can move on to putting stuff on the prefabs. So I'm going to go ahead and copy, paste, copy, paste, save and reload. This is going to be gear door left rear, gear door right rear. Let's see if we need to make any changes. Oh yeah, we went too far. Not a big deal though. So procedural. Let's do a flat 100 and see how we look. No, too much. Wow. 80. Still a little too far. No, actually, I'd call that about good. Like I said, this model was never made with the intention of it being animated, so this stuff just does not match up. But we're making do with what we got. But there we go. We are basically done with the animations here. We've got full movement. Now, I don't like how fast these are. I do think 50 was a bit slow. So let's do 70 for the variable update and see how this looks. 70 still a bit fast. So let's get a good 60 in there. Oh yeah, I think that's where we're at. I'm not super crazy about the rear gear sucking up in faster than the doors can close, but I think that's kind of just going to be the nature of it. I could go in and put these on a different variable update, which I think I might do that. So yeah, it's a good little learn. So we'll go ahead and stop the simulation real quick. We're gonna create a new variable update. We're basically gonna copy this tree. A new procedural and a new bind pose. And then we're going to link this tree together. Now we're going to come in here and we're going to add a queue item. That's going to give us another attachment point down here. We're going to attach that to this one. Now queue items. There's something we need to do here. Let me open up my other reference material because it has the information I need. Stand by. All right. So if you have a second tree coming off this queue and you need to do a queue item, you are going to give this start a value of 1 and this whatever how you say that it's going to be set to ignore, I believe. So now we're just going to come in here and kind of copy what we did. So we're going to add an airspeed and we're going to give this one a 70. I think it was 60 on this one, right? Yeah. And then I'm going to just transfer over those 2 bones to this one. So we got gear door left rear and right rear. And then we can remove them from this one. Save. For bind pose, we're going to tell it gear. And then we should be all good. So yeah, make sure we give this expression 1. I do believe, let me check. Yeah. Okay. And remember, your stuff being pretty is half the battle. Organize stuff how you like it. All right, let's give this a quick try. Oh, we're not getting anything. Let me cross-reference. Okay. So we are getting movement on the rear doors. You know what? I'm wondering if we don't even need this. All right. I'll give this one more try. If this doesn't work, I'll move on to how we had it and see if, and we'll just continue in. So yeah, it doesn't look like this can. Doesn't look like this can attach to more than one. Yeah. Okay. We are going to backtrack. So ignore this. I'm sure there's a way to do it. I just don't want to waste your time with me trying to learn while I'm trying to teach you guys. So we're going to keep it simple, stupid, and go from there. So we will have a little bit of clipping with the rear doors, but I think that's better than no animations. Yep, so we're back to functioning properly. We can save and close this out now. Oop. As I misclick on literally everything. So now we're going to go into our world editor. And wait for infusion to take, 3 to 5 business days to get back to you. Am I affiliated with TTT? Sploof, I don't know if you're still here, but no. They do have some of my birds, though, I think. I think they have some of my birds on the server. All right. So once you're in your world editor and you're on your prefab, you're going to come in here and you're going to look for your animation manager, which is usually somewhere down here at the bottom. vehicle animation component. So this animation graph and animation instance, these top ones, this is what you're going to put your new texture or the textures, your new animations you just made in. So go to your animations folder and you're going to copy this. So it's MIAGR, so you're going to find MI24 AGR, MIASI, MI24 ASI. Starting node. This is important. You remember that first box that we made? This one here, the Q, and we named it MI24A gear. This is where that goes. That's important. Without it, your bird doesn't know that that's what it needs to be looking at. Animation variables. You're going to add an animation variable, and then you'll need to animation variable name. This is the one that's in your animation that you made. Signal name. So I already know what I'm using because I've done this before. Say you're doing something other than landing gear and you don't quite know what signal you want to tie it to. Say you want something that's based off of engine RPM or your cyclic controls or anything other than what we're about to do, airspeed, because that's easy. I can just type in airspeed because I know that's what it is. I'll show you how to find your list of signals that you can pull from. And you can do this when you're making your animation as well. So I probably should have brought this up earlier. But you go to your vehicle helicopter simulation, which if it's a car or ground vehicle, it would be the wheeled vehicle simulation. You go to your vehicle simulation. Now, under animations, there will be anim variables, so animation variables. And you see this helicopter has a list of 35 that you can pull from. So steering, wheels, suspension, pitch, collective, cyclic, all these different things that you can tie into. So say like you had a radar dish that you wanted to spin whenever your vehicle's on. You could tie that radar dish to your engine RPM. So you could come in here and find engine RPM, 1 or 0 or whatnot. So anytime your motor is running, it'll have that radar dish spinning, something along those lines. Or if you want something to deploy once you get a certain altitude, altitude would be that. Now, keep in mind, I've only been able to get altitude to run off of barometric altitude. So it's based on sea level. So I can't get landing gear to be altitude, like cued by the altitude right now. Because like, even though you may be on the ground, you may still be 30 meters above sea level. So like my gear won't come all the way down. Sure, there's a way to get around that. That's for another day to learn. So for right now, what we're going to be tying from is airspeed, which should be under speed, signal name, and you need to match this case sensitive. Capital air, capital speed, but all one word. So it's easy just to copy that, come back down to your animation manager, and in that signal name, paste it, and hit apply. Save, and let's give her a test. If all goes right, we should be done. Moment of truth. Beautiful. And then as we slow down for a landing, now I am flying on keyboard, so mind my piloting skills. Little hard of a landing, but there we go. So my model is half-assed when it comes to landing gear. I don't do landing gear properly. I'm lazy. I'll show you my colliders. I literally just have boxes. I now you can weight these to the bones, and they should move with the bone. Yeah. Now I would be very surprised if somebody could controllably skim 2 or 3 feet below their bird without hitting something. I'm sure with you. I think the average guy, I think with my bird and how big and clunky this thing is, I think I'm probably safe to just not worry about it. If somebody complains about it in the future, I'll do like the 2 extra steps to make that work. Yep. So that is that. I am gonna pull on. I'm gonna pull over another project to show you another thing you can do with these animations real quick. Now, this project is not 100% um, out there known that we're working on it. I mean, if you follow our development studio, then you already know. And it's not like we're posting it in the mod chat and all that, so it's out there. But you can make these and then have interaction points like a press F to open hatch. Um, if you've done the old version of Proc animations, it's the exact same, but easier. Uh, don't mind this. We're not going to look at that right now. But this door back here, it swings open, right? So we'll just go ahead and assume that you watched me make the animations for this. It's the exact same uh, process in the animation editor, but instead of having this tied to airspeed, I gave it its own signal name, right? So I named it like door or something like that. You come down here to Actions Manager, and if you remember, I think I walked you through the old. Yep, yep. So we have, yeah. So you have adjust signal action. You'll have a positive valued one and a negative valued one. So you got your adjust signal. So if I open up my UI, this is my close hatch, and I give it an adjustment step of negative whatever the values that I need for this to like do its full animation. So like my value for airspeed, like I needed to hit 100 kilometers an hour for the animation to complete. And that's because everything was at most 100 degrees of translation or rotation. I need 220 degrees. So I set that signal to 220. Um, and I set the max value to the positive. And then the other one, I set max value positive 220, adjustment step positive 220. And that's that. Now, I hope if you're this far, you know how to assign parent context and use the action manager. This is how this telling it which button locate. Fuck you. Yeah. So this is just telling that animation, hey, when these are activated, you're going to either open or close. And we'll jump in and show you what that looks like real quick. And this bird has got a few different animations on it, all in one project. So this is kind of a cool like example of what you can do with this kind of stuff. And not only does this hatch open when that opening closes, but those security restraints in there raise and lower over the pilot. And you can assign, obviously, if you know how to do actions managers, you know how to do this, you can assign multiple points of control to those. And then if you see my thrusters on the bottom, those have a translation that once I hit up speed, those animation or those what do you call it? The effects are tied to bones that translate inwards. So you see how they kind of move up, and then again, the rotation on the engine cells are also tied to airspeed. So this is kind of an example of some things you can do with these animations. I'm an ace pilot. I never crash. Yeah, pilot camera. It follows the pilot's camera. On controller, it is right trigger. I'm sure. I haven't played with it, so I don't know. I don't. I don't play this game very much, so. then, then no, because it's the same. It's the same exact script. Something like that. I can talk to Isaac about adding that feature in because it shouldn't be too hard. That's some simple config work to allow you to remap keys. Um, but yeah, that's kind of the extent of what I know right now. Without wasting hours and while you guys watching me experiment with stuff, that's kind of what I can teach. So I do hope that anybody other than Barker watching this, it gives y'all good help. Barker, I hope you struggle. Well, never mind, because you'll be blowing up my DMs. Don't struggle, please don't struggle. But it's easier than it looks. I was really intimidated. I put learning this off for months. Isaac told me about this method like 4 months ago, and I was like, "Cool, yeah, I'm gonna keep doing the old way. That sucks." This is way better. There's a lot of potential you can get out of this if you just sit down and play with it. Uh, but for things like landing gear and hatches, perfect. Tying this to the getting in and getting out door opening and closing, that I don't know. You're gonna have to poke around in your prefab and learn what the signal is. Maybe open up the animation workspace for the IK animations and see if you can sniff out the signal that they're using. Um, I haven't had to do that, so I don't know. That's beyond what I can kind of answer. Um, but yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and end the stream there. That way, there's not a lot of filler down here at the end. So those of you who stopped by, looks like we had a few people. Yep. Alrighty, y'all. Thank you for stopping by, and I hope this helps out.